Hey guys, what's up? Bryan here. Thanks for tuning in today. So, Missouri weather is kind of everywhere. You know, it could be 70, sunny one day and then 20 and snowing the next day. We have tornadoes, earthquakes, it's kind of just everywhere. And every time I get to thinking that winter's here and, you know, it's time to put up the bike, we get another good day. So today is 60 degrees. It would be perfect to get out right around, but I've got the bike torn down. Today we're gonna actually be installing a 33 tooth pulley, and I've got so much planned this winter that I can't really take all my free time and go out riding as much as I'd like to. So we're gonna get out there today, we're gonna install this 33 tooth pulley. So what this is gonna do is it's gonna drop those RPMs just a little bit, and it's gonna allow you to stay in each gear just a little bit longer. And hopefully it'll kind of work out to where you're not necessarily needing to search for that sixth gear when you're on the highway. Now Bryan's makes a 31 tooth pulley, which is going to do the exact opposite. It's going to give you quicker light to light times, but on the highway it's going to actually make you run higher RPMs. So something like this is going to be nice if you're doing long rides. Now these pulleys came stock on the Roadstar 1600s between the years of 99 and 03. In 04 they started actually switching over to a 32 tooth pulley just like the Warrior, so that's not going to help you. Now in order to make this modification work, what you're going to do is you're going to take that pulley and have it ground down to where you take one flange off of one side of it. Now they do have a guy named Hefty Smurf on the forum, and if you're very lucky you can get a hold of him, and he actually sells them already ground down and ready to install. Now I was lucky enough to actually have this pulley sent to me by Jeff Elliott, who's a fellow Warrior owner, and once again, a big thank you to Jeff for this. This video is pretty well sponsored by him. So everybody be sure to comment down below, you know, thanks Jeff, and let him see some of the love. Now guys, I think we've done enough talking, so let's go ahead, let's get out there and let's get this done. The first thing that you're going to want to do is go ahead and jack your bike up. Now once we've got our bike up on a stand, the first thing that we're going to do is take off this cover to gain access to our pulley. Now to take off the cover, we're going to need to actually take off our rear peg bracket first, and that's going to be the two 6mm Allen bolts here. Now once you've done that, you want to remove the 6 5mm Allen bolts that are holding on the pulley cover. Now once you've got your 6 bolts taken out of your cover here, you can actually remove this to gain just a little bit more access. You're gonna need a T30 safety Torx bit for this, and then there's a 4mm Allen bolt back here. So let's go ahead and get this cover off, and then once you do that, you'll actually have to remove the wire that's holding your lock in place as well. Now this cover is kind of a pain in the ass to get off. You're gonna have to wiggle it back and forth. You might need to get in and pry just a little bit. It's got tabs on it that kind of like to keep it in place. But once you've got that all removed, it will pop off. You just got to kind of work at it. Now once you've got the cover off, it's usually a good idea to go ahead and check while you're here for what they call the red dust. And that happens when your pulley nut actually loosens up. And you can see here, mine actually is looking pretty good. Well, Yamaha, when they came out, they actually put the wrong specs for the torque on these pulley nuts. So a lot of times what happens is they end up loosening and it ends up creating a red dust out of the rust here. So if you've got red dust here, usually you need to check your nut and make sure that it's tightened back up and make sure that everything's good to go. And I'll actually get into the correct specs on the torque and everything a little bit later when we go to installing the new pulley. And we can go ahead and remove these nylon wheels because we're not going to be using them when we install this 33 tooth pulley. Now depending on what gear your bike is, you may have a different nut than this. This is going to be the older bikes. It's going to have a nut with a locking washer on it, and the newer ones are going to have a dimpled nut. And on the newer ones with the dimpled nut, you should be able just to go ahead and twist it right off without any problems. Now it's usually a good idea to go ahead and replace that or replace this locking washer on this one. So we're going to pry these tabs up, and then we will loosen up this bolt really quick. Now from there, we're going to loosen the 36mm bolt that's holding our pulley in place. Now I went ahead and dropped it down into first gear, and I have somebody holding the brake to help that pulley from moving while I take this off. Now if you have an impact wrench, that's going to really help to get it off. If not, go ahead and use what you got, but You might want some muscles. Now once we got that pulley nut off, we'll come to the right side and we're going to loosen up the 14mm bolt that's holding our rear brake caliper bracket in place. Now you don't need to take it off, you just need to loosen it so that it can actually slide back and forth. And while we're here, we'll loosen up our axle nut. Now the last thing that we'll need to do is loosen up the 12mm stay bolts that are holding our adjusters in place. And we'll need to do that both on the right side and the left side. And then we can adjust these in just a little bit so that we can gain that slack on that belt. Now when we get this all done, we'll need to realign and readjust this belt anyways, and I'll show you guys how to do that when we get a little bit closer to it. And once we've got that done and I push that wheel forward a little bit, you can see that I've got plenty of slack on that drive belt, so we can go ahead and remove this pulley. Now from here, we are ready to start putting everything back together. So first we'll pop this pulley back on, and then we will readjust everything as far as the belt tension and the tracking on it goes. Now when we reinstall this pulley, we want to have the flange side out. And we want to make sure that we have the belt in place because these pins are going to actually keep us from being able to put the belt on afterwards. So we will, like I said, put the belt there first, and then we'll take that pulley and go ahead and stick it on. And you should be able to line up those flanges and just have it fall right into place. Now you might have just a little bit of clearance issue with this, and if that's the case, what might help out is to take that back side and kind of book it in first, and then actually pop it onto the splines and work it into place that way. Now once you've got your pulley set, we're ready to reinstall our washer and our bolt. Now the bolt has a recess on one side and a flat edge on the other. Now you want to take that recess and have it towards the inside, and you'll want to actually take your retaining clip and put it on there first. And like I said, you'll take that bolt flat side out, twist it on. Now the manual states that you're going to want to tighten this down to 72 foot-pounds of torque. Now the general consensus is that is not enough. You're actually going to want to tighten it down to 110 foot-pounds of torque, and then we will actually take these tabs and bend them back over the nut. And then you're actually going to want to come back about a week later and recheck the torque on it as well. Now like I stated earlier, you're going to actually want to keep these white rollers out because they will pinch the belt with this wider pulley on. And once you've got your pulley nut torqued down to spec, you want to take your tab and bend it back over. Now like I said, you're going to want to come back in about a week and recheck this to make sure that it hasn't budged on you. Now one thing that you can do is put a little bit of motor oil on this when you torque it down, and that's going to help you get just a little bit tighter on it. Now one thing that I like to do is when you have this up on a lift and you have absolutely no adjustments figured out yet, you can take that wheel and twist it and just kind of watch where it's falling on that back pulley. And that's going to give you a good idea of how it's tracking. Now while you're doing that, you can also watch your front pulley up ahead and kind of see what it's doing there as well. Now once you've got it to where it's actually tracking in the center or close to the center of those pulleys and it's not rubbing on either side, then you know that your tracking is good, and from there you can actually work on your belt tension. And I'm actually going to go ahead and link a video in the top right hand corner for you if you need help doing that. Now once you've got your belt tension set to where you're happy with it, you want to make sure that you go back to that right side and tighten that screw that's holding on your rear brake caliper bracket. You'll also want to tighten up your rear axle bolt while you're there. Now the manual states that you should tighten that rear axle bolt to 110 foot-pounds per torque. A lot of guys in the forum have talked about how this actually will cause you to strip it out, and they swear by going somewhere in the area closer to about 75 foot-pounds. Me personally, I like to go somewhere in the area of about 82 foot-pounds, so that's what I'm going to tighten mine to. I haven't gone out there to do it yet. I've got the cover off. I haven't decided if I want to actually cut that wagon wheel out and do an open pulley, or if I want to cut that whole bracket away and do a completely naked pulley, or what. So I haven't got back to installing everything yet, but we'll see kind of how that works out. Guys, thanks for tuning in today. Be sure to like and share this video. And if you're not subscribed, scroll down, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, get notified to all my new videos as soon as they come out. I've got quite a bit planned this winter, so you want to be sure that you're sticking around for that. Now I haven't really decided what I plan on doing for next week's video, so it's going to be as much a surprise to you as it is to me, guys, but be sure to be watching for it. Other than that, we'll see you next time.